Hey guys, it's Amanda, and today I'm going to be talking about the college experience. When I was in high school, the college experience was this elusive enigma that my teachers, my parents, and other adults in my life spoke very fondly of. At college, they made lifelong friends, met their future spouses, somehow wrote essays without using Spark Notes, didn't have to take on crippling student loan debt, and to them, Zoom was just a verb. Simpler times. So today I'm going to be talking about the evolution of college and the whole notion of the college experience, where it came from, why Americans are so infatuated by it, and why we're willing to pay so much for it. But before I begin, I would like to thank Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people. With Skillshare, you can explore new skills, deepen existing passions, and get lost in creativity. Skillshare is great for lifelong learners, and they have classes about illustration, graphic design, animation, fine arts, film and photography, and more. When I am finally out of the swamp that is like 5 final projects due this week, I'm really excited to take some more Skillshare classes over the break and just actually, do some learning for fun. I'm really looking forward to taking sketchbook illustration for all, taught by Samantha Dion Baker. Skillshare is curated specifically for learning, so that means that there's no ads and they're always launching new premium classes so you can stay focused on what you're learning and get lost in your creativity. The first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in my description will get a free premium membership so you can explore your creativity. But first, finish watching the rest of this video. So first and foremost, let's define the college experience. There isn't a dictionary definition, but I found this article from odysseyonline.com that surveyed a bunch of random college students and asked them what the college experience means to them. From this article, I think the college experience can be summed up in partying, becoming independent, making connections, and farther down the list, academics. So I don't really go to a party school or live in a traditional college town, but what I've gathered from the few people I do know who go to those kinds of colleges is that in a college town, the college, it's the attraction. It's the only thing there. So what else are you going to do on a weekend besides drink alcohol in a sticky floored frat with questionable wall art? Another reason why partying is such a big aspect of the college experience, I suppose, is because people do really work hard during the week with a lot of classes, grinding, writing essays until 3 a.m., and partying is a way to blow off steam. Also, partying really ties into the whole independence aspect of it all, which I'll get into next. Good old independence. It's what the Pilgrims came here for. There's a declaration all about it, and it's the primary reason 18-year-olds move across state lines in the name of education. I feel like this is pretty self-explanatory. Some people just want to try out something new or reinvent themselves. Some people want to escape a less than ideal living situation, and some people are convinced that they need to move to New York City because they are the main character. Honestly, so many fictional characters go to NYU though. Everyone has their own reasons, but after 18 years of living under your parents' rules, self-determination, albeit on their health insurance, sounds pretty damn attractive. And then we have connections, and in this I'm encompassing friendships, relationships, networking opportunities, all that kind of stuff. A huge part about college is the social aspect, both professionally and recreationally. At college, we're told we'll meet peers and alumni who will be integral to our success in the working world. So add those connections on LinkedIn now, kids. Colleges really do get you with those notable alumni lists sometimes, because you're like, hey, maybe if I go here, I will win a Nobel Prize or an Oscar, or at least be famous enough to get my own Wikipedia page one day. And farther down the list, we have good old academics, the real reason why we're here, right? Now that I've talked about what the college experience is, I'm going to dive into where this concept even came from. So in 1636, the first college in the American colonies was founded, Harvard College. So Harvard was modeled after England's oldest colleges, Cambridge and Oxford. And basically every other college in the United States was modeled after Harvard. The defining feature of the English colleges was that they were in the countryside and they were kind of separate from everything else, and they really focused on building a life within the college community, the college campus, rather than integrating in existing cities. So that's why a lot of colleges are kind of separate or closed off from whatever town or city they are actually located in, because the whole idea is to cultivate a kind of ecosystem just within the college. And that's the whole college life, the college experience, I suppose. So in the early days, Harvard was largely focused on training clergymen, but there was also students who wanted to pursue other careers like being a lawyer or a politician or a physician, and they studied a classical curriculum that consisted of Latin and Greek and philosophy and theology, more commonly known today as the liberal arts. By 1700, there still wasn't that many more colleges in the United States, but tuition rose to a whopping 10 shillings per quarter. The cost of college wasn't super prohibitive to families back then, but still most people didn't attend because the US economy was largely agricultural, so it was kind of a large opportunity cost for a family or a business to lose an able-bodied man who could work on a farm to just go away to college for a few years to drink obscene amounts of alcohol and read Plato. So naturally, a very small group of white men who had family money and came from a high social rank attended college because they could afford to and they were allowed to. Even by 1776, at the end of the Revolutionary War, most people didn't go to college because it really wasn't a prerequisite for anything. A lot of people just learned through apprenticeships. So the few people who did attend college did it more for status, prestige, and civic power/leadership, which, I still think that's pretty true today. Let's fast forward to 1862 when President Abraham Lincoln passed the Morrill Land Grant Act. I literally feel like I'm being an A-push teacher right now. So the Morrill Land Grant Act allowed states to receive free land for public universities. The purpose of these land grant institutions was, without excluding other scientific and classical studies and including military tactic, to teach such branches of learning as are related to agriculture and the mechanic arts, in order to promote the liberal and practical education of the industrial classes in the several pursuits and professions in life. So basically they were like, okay, these guys just can't sit around and philosophize all day. The world is changing and people need to learn more practical skills, like building shit. So by no means did it erase the whole liberal arts and classical aspect of a college education, to the dismay of many students today who have to deal with some core curriculums. But along with the Industrial Revolution, it did have a big impact in colleges offering more degrees that were centered around a certain vocation, like maybe business or agriculture or engineering, rather than a more abstract field of study that could later on be applied to a certain vocation. This act helped create 70 institutions in the United States, and it's often referred to as the singular source of practical and affordable higher education in America. By 1910, colleges actually started to receive more applications than they could accept, so they started having more rigid requirements like grades and implementing standardized tests such as the SAT. And between 1920 and 1944, college attendance rates increased fivefold. After World War I, colleges started getting a lot more donations, and they were able to invest in stuff like fancy architecture and large football fields, and college sports started really gaining traction in America. And in the 1920s, colleges were influenced by the larger American culture of excess and partying and rebellion, and it kind of shifted it from being this gentlemanly, scholarly institution to being a place where young people could let loose a little bit more. 1944 was one of the biggest turning points when it came to college accessibility because the GI Bill was introduced, and this allowed World War II veterans to attend college for free so that they could kind of assimilate back into a normal American life. By 1950, nearly 2 million veterans were able to take advantage of this program, and it is worth noting that a lot of African Americans were excluded from it simply because they were Black. This program definitely had a big role in shifting the college experience from something that upper middle class and rich people aspired to more towards a larger number of middle class Americans. The 1960s was a turning point when it came to the marketing of the college experience. By this time, public universities were able to keep their tuition rates pretty low because they were backed by the federal government. However, private universities had to raise their prices to keep up with inflation, but they also had to convince people that the product of their higher priced education was worth it. And this is an important point because colleges had to shift their primary purpose from educating people to convincing people to buy an expensive experience. So private colleges kind of marketed themselves as offering a more luxurious product. Some of the main draws were smaller class sizes, very niche topics of study, and honestly the strategy worked. The general public started to think of some of these private colleges as more prestigious and holding a higher value than a state school. In the 1960s and the next few decades, good old-fashioned college elitism started to gain traction. Even though there were more students than ever attending community colleges, also known as junior colleges, people kind of viewed them as inferior because way more people were applying to four-year schools, so the people who didn't get accepted to them had to go to two-year schools. By 1980, both public and private colleges were significantly raising tuition. Definitely not as crazy as it is today, but it led a lot more people to turn to community college because it was a much cheaper option. But the notion of the college experience was still largely associated with the traditional four-year full-time residential experience. Also, it's worth noting that the US News and Ranking college list thing came out in 1983, so that started a whole other beast of rampant competitiveness and like elitism when it comes to applying to college and choosing what college to go to. By 2010, after the huge financial crash, people started questioning the correlation between having a college degree and being employed because so many people were unemployed, especially recent college grads who paid a lot of money for their degree. And today, especially during the pandemic, colleges are running on super thin margins and losing more money and students than ever because it's super expensive to run these places and it's super expensive to attend them. But let's talk about the price of college really quick. Since 1990, not that long ago, college tuition at four-year colleges has risen about 300%, which is 2.5 to 4 times the normal rate of inflation. So that's kind of the history of college in America in a nutshell, but let's get back into what the college experience is. I feel like when we talk about the college experience, it's still less about those quantifiable things. It's more about these intangibles that you allegedly can't get anywhere else other than living in extremely close proximity with other 18 to 22-year-olds for 4 years. And these intangibles that make up the college experience are the reason why Americans are willing to pay so much money for it. Because in the pandemic, both parents and students are super upset that they are paying tens of thousands of dollars for a college experience, when in reality on Zoom, college is literally just boiled down to the bare bones of it, which is going to class and getting an education. I think in American society, the college experience has kind of been deemed this priceless thing that you really can't put a dollar value on. And I think that's even why after the pandemic, and even though the prices of college will go up significantly more in the future, people are still going to go. I think we've kind of sold ourselves this dream of the college experience, and I think the value we place on it has kind of gotten out of control. I think it's safe to say that in America, colleges have shifted their priority from providing an education to providing an experience. And they're really able to take advantage of this kind of mystical notion we have of the college experience because it isn't something that's concrete and it can't be necessarily replicated en masse. Like, you can mass produce education and send it out to thousands or millions of people across the world. That's why there's online courses and stuff. But for a specific college experience, it's so individualized. And we live in a society we live in a society that really values individualism. So I don't think that the notion or the dream of the college experience will go anywhere anytime soon. Okay, so now I'm going to shift gears from history teacher to college student and talk to you guys about what I think the college experience is from my perspective as a junior in college right now. This is going to sound like hyperbole, but I truly believe the most integral aspect of one's college experience is having a good social life. Like, I truly believe this is the nexus of the college experience because when you're in college, well, let me preface, when you're in four-year traditional college, living on campus, you are constantly surrounded by people all the time, and there is no separation between school life and between home life. So I remember, like, when I was in high school and middle school and before that, I barely hung out with people outside of school because, well, one, I didn't have a car. Two, I didn't really want to ask my mom to drive me places. Three, I didn't even have that many friends. So it didn't really concern me. I was like, oh, school is where I socialized. Like, it really didn't bother me that I, like, didn't socialize that much with other people on the weekends. And in college, it's like, it kind of warps all that because you're in school all the time, so I kind of feel like it feels like you need to socialize all the time because there's no distinction between being at home and like being by yourself. So I feel like this was definitely a huge adjustment, and I felt like from watching a lot of like college advice videos and college vloggers and even just seeing from like movies and TV shows, it just really seemed like the most important aspect of college was having friends. The way college is set up, it's a super hyper social experience. So like everywhere and anywhere you go on a college campus, there's usually people socializing and interacting and having a good time. And if you are not doing this, it can kind of feel like you are like looking at a tableau of everyone with all these amazing friends and friend groups, and somehow you're just sitting there looking at it and you are not a part of it, and then it feels really, really lonely. And I feel like loneliness hits so much harder when you're surrounded by people, but you don't really feel like you are a part of those people. Essentially, that's what a lot of my freshman year experience looked like. And it's funny because I went into college knowing that the academic part like wouldn't really be, I wasn't scared of the academic part at all. I thought that would be the easiest aspect of college, and I was like, okay, yeah, like school, whatever. But I knew that if I wanted to have this experience, like I really, really had to put myself out there socially and be a self-starter and make things happen for myself. I knew that opportunities and friendships and jobs and internships wouldn't be handed to me. Like I really had to do everything myself. Yeah, I don't know. I just think the crux of the college experience is like social life. Okay, not 100% sure where I left off because I needed to delete stuff from this camera for like the 5th time during filming this video. The educational aspect of college itself barely takes up any of your time, so all the rest of the hours in the day are spent, I don't know, living out the college experience to an extent, and that just involves being around people and being very social. If you are someone who has to work while you're in college, I think that greatly changes your experience too, though, because you have less time to hang out with friends and less time to do schoolwork. And sometimes working just has to be people's priority even while they are in college, so they can simply afford to be there. I'm a junior now, and I have always worked when I'm in college. I've been super lucky to only have taken paid internships in college because I just decided that my time was quite valuable, and also I can't like rely on money from my parents, so I was like, if I have to work, then I have to be paid to work. But it definitely has impacted my college experience. Most of the time, I arrange my classes so that I can have longer time periods to work, and on the weekends it just leaves me with a lot more homework to do and maybe a little bit less time to socialize. I feel pretty lucky though, because I feel like I'm someone who I'm really able to listen to myself, and I just can't force myself to do work if I don't want to. So even though I feel overwhelmed a lot of the time, like I never like really get myself into like a state of stress. I won't allow it to go there. I'm like, if I want to hang out with people, or if I just want to write in my journal for 2 hours, even though I have multiple assignments to do, I'm gonna do it because like I just prioritize my well-being over schoolwork. Now that I think about it, I definitely didn't come to college solely for the education, because if I did, and if anyone did, I would probably choose a much cheaper option. I do feel like I have learned a lot academically though, and I try to maximize as much value as I can out of the educational aspect. Well, at least for like the first month of school, and then my motivation kind of dies off. I know a lot of people kind of like hate like core curriculum and like gen ed requirements at college because they seem like a waste of time. And maybe I'm just a romantic, but I actually really like taking classes that are like completely unrelated to my major. I don't know, I think it's just fun, and like it expands my mind and my worldview. Like next semester, I'm taking a class all about the science of love. That will probably be really cool. And see, this is how they lure you in. This is how they lure you in. They offer very niche classes that you like don't really need, but like they sound really cool. I do think like the whole thing about expanding your intellectual horizons in college, it's you're not automatically going to get that just from going to college. I think you have to really seek it out and like really be invested in the classes you're taking and what you're studying, and be able to kind of take it out of the context of the classroom and apply it to your real life. Even that whole video I made about the art of being alone, I really learned all that stuff and came to those realizations from school. And I don't know, I think that's really cool. In summary, the college experience is, as cheesy as it sounds, it's what you make of it. I feel like I can't say if it's worth it yet because I'm still in school, and technically you need to like work for a lifetime to really reap, I guess, the statistical monetary benefits of attending college. Honestly, the college experience is a dream. You are buying a dream, and no matter where you go or no matter who you are, you're not guaranteed to have like this amazing college experience because it's like kind of not real. You kind of have to make it up for yourself, and like how much effort you put into it or whatever circumstances you might find yourself in are just mostly going to shape your college experience. I guess I'll update you guys like in a year when I graduate and have further perspective on the college experience as someone with a fancy hat and a degree. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Leave your thoughts about college and the college experience, or what your experience has been or what you want it to be below, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!